class, I wanted to take a couple minutes to discuss our labs. So, for many of you, this might be your first online lab, and that can be a little bit intimidating. It's really not meant to be. So, we're going to discuss some of the requirements, the length of time that's typically spent on labs, when items are due, working as groups, and we will run through an example of a lab. So let's start with the type of material that is required for your labs. It depends on each lab, but for the overall lab class itself, you will need the lab pack and the rock kit. If you do not have both of those items, you will not be able to complete your labs. If you receive the wrong items, or if you only received a partial set, you will need to go to the OTC bookstore and make sure that you get the correct items before lab 1. The time length for a standard lab is typically 3 hours. Now, that can vary from person to person, but over the last several semesters, the standard length of time it takes students to complete a lab is 3 hours. If you are struggling with a lab, sometimes it will take students between 3 and 5 hours. All labs are going to be due on Sunday evening by midnight, unless there's a holiday or an exception. So with that being said, I can be reached by email throughout the week, and I respond within 24 hours of an email. However, on weekends, I am slower to respond. So if you have a question about a lab on Saturday morning, I might not respond until Sunday afternoon. It just kind of depends on what my schedule is like for that weekend. So if you have questions, I encourage you to start your labs first, earlier in the week, ask questions as you go. If you wait until the last minute, if you're emailing questions at 9 or 10 o'clock Sunday night, I will not see them until Monday to be able to help you. Now, if you are taking this class with other people that you know, or if you're a group of high school students and you're taking it with other students that you know, if you have a brother or sister, a wife, I encourage you to work as groups. However, every lab that is submitted must be individual. If I read from student to student that you use the exact same wording, it's going to be plagiarism and you will receive a 0. You will receive 1 warning, and after that, you will be receiving 0s for all of your work. So while I encourage you to work together as a group, please make sure your work is original. All right, so let's look at an example of what a standard lab looks like. So we're going to look at lab number 1. For each lab, we will have a set of lab instructions. So let's click and open that up. Now, for a couple of the labs, you might see a welcome video. You'll be able to read about the learning objectives, what the overall objectives are, and how you should prepare for each lab. So I've attached a PDF for each lab, and this is a guide and it'll have helpful information. This one has a PowerPoint that focuses on some key points about maps. Not all labs will have that kind of instruction. And then it will go through what the required materials are to complete the lab. So for lab number 1, we're going to be looking at topographic maps. So let's open the PDF to see what that looks like. So it is from our hands-on learning kit, and it's about reading and interpreting contour lines. So it has basic information about what you need, how to complete it, and it kind of takes you through each lab step by step. It has the background information you'll need to complete the lab. So this is just kind of what you'll be looking at throughout the semester. And again, each lab will come with something that has instructions. So when you get down to the experiment part, that's where it has the actual lab information. So these are the questions you will be asked. Now, not all the questions on the handout will be included in the lab. All right, so that is what is on the lab guide. This is the required information, or the required materials, excuse me. And then if you need any additional practice or guidance, I typically provide additional sources to check out. And then some frequently asked questions. All right, let's go back out to our modules and take a look at lab number 1. So it is a graded lab. It's set as a quiz. There is no time limit. It does typically take 3 hours. So let's preview what this looks like. Some questions will be multiple choice. Some questions will be short answer, true, false, matching. It depends on the type of question, and we'll go from there. So the amount of questions also varies significantly from lab to lab. Some labs might have 5 questions, other labs might have 35 questions. So we have a couple of multiple choice questions that follow the lab guide that was provided. There will be some compare and contrast questions. And then the most important part of these labs are the file response. And so for question 8, you're going to create a topographic profile. So you're going to do this on a piece of paper at home, take a photo of it, include an OTC ID or any sort of other unique identifier. It could be a driver's license. You can cover up all the important information as long as I have a photo and your name on it. That is really what's needed. You'll choose a file to upload it, and that is how it'll get graded. If you do not upload a file for a lab, you will receive 0 credit on that lab. I do typically allow you a couple of warnings, but after the first unit, if you do not include your photo with your lab, you will not receive credit for your lab. Now, at any time throughout this, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. Email, ask other students, anything that you need to help with this, just let me know. I'm always here. Thanks.